Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about the ninth commandment of egoless code. So let's get into it. And the commandment is don't be the guy in the room. But since we're modern people, I will say don't be the person in the room. So what this basically means is that when you work as a software developer, you will notice that there are some people who are open, like everything's a spectrum. Some people are very open to collaboration, pair programming, mob coding, and some people are really crazy about it. Like they think that that is the solution to everything and they want everybody to sit and do this as much as humanly possible. And then on the other extreme, you have the people who barely wants to talk to anybody. Like they really just want to sit in their own corner. They don't want to be bothered. I have had many a times where there are the number one suggestion box item for the management within the company is, can we have less meeting? And I know for a fact it's coming from a person who has had one meeting, maybe one or two times in a week, like one meeting per day, twice a week or something like that. That's a lot of meetings to them. That's disrupting their workflow. They've had so many other days, but that's an issue. And that level of being an introvert is not uncommon. But you can also think of it as a person who really just wants to work in isolation. They don't want to interact with people. I like to call them lone wolves. And the reason why you don't want to be this person is for the very same reason a lot of these other commandments, which they kind of touch on. If you're in isolation, you lack communication between you and your coworkers. And the worse your communication is, the worse your situation, your code-based situation is going to be reflected within that as a problem. Because if you are working completely by yourself and not being part of a team, unless you truly are like a master programmer who knows absolutely everything and you really don't need anybody else, then yeah, sure, you might be if you are that person, sure, you can survive by yourself. The problem is that if you have other people who want to help or are going to be part of the code that you are writing, which is usually the case, and you do things that they don't understand and they don't feel comfortable asking you for help, you're actually damaging the rest of the company at the expense of, the only thing you really gain is that you have the comfort of not having to help anybody else. And sure, I want to say that this is not something that's going to happen to you, and I want to say that you're never going to deal with people like this, but I'm very sorry to say that you are. And usually it's some old, bitter senior developers just tired of life and doesn't want to talk to anybody and so forth. And I have worked with these people. In my case, it was hilarious because the bitter old senior had been a bitter old senior Java developer for many years, and finally just decided that no, you know what, I want to try to be a front-end developer. And he had no skills, like no skills whatsoever within this space, but he still wanted to work completely alone and so forth. And the manager, like we had a technical lead who just like they had to have this guy into coaching sessions, just one-on-one, to try to make him realize that you are writing code in a really bad way. Like you're not producing good work. You think you are, but you're not. And since you're not open to talk to anybody else outside of yourself, and you don't even want to sit in the same room as the rest of the team, you're not going to improve. Like you're just causing problems right now. This was a major issue because we couldn't fire him because he's been around forever, right? But at the same time, he didn't want to collaborate. So it just caused this really weird tension between him, management, and the team. Nobody really knew what to do with him. I still don't know how it all ended, actually, because I left the company before that situation was resolved. But you don't want to be this person because it just causes a lot of tension. And especially, I mean, the other thing that will happen most likely for you is that you might find that you don't know something. And then as this developer, you will try to fix it on your own. And the sad fact, I'm very sorry to break this to you, is that you're not perfect. Sometimes other people, they know better. And this is an emotionally good thing for you to understand because it humbles you a lot. There is a very nice study that showcases the idea that the less you have, or the more accustomed that you are to working with less, or having less, if you're very poor or so forth, the more sociable you usually are, the more dependent you are on other people, because you understand that in order for you to survive, you need other people around. Like we're a herd animal, we humans in general. And this applies to coding as well. If you accept the idea that there are other people who have a useful perspective, you are much more likely to socialize with people, you're more likely to collaborate on problems, and the code will actually get better, because it's almost always better to have more than one perspective on the code that you are writing, especially if there's more than one person who's going to maintain that code. So what I want you to take away from this is that the commandment that you shouldn't be the person in the room is a very good thing to follow. I hope that it feels sort of obvious to a lot of people, but to some people this is a very hard thing to do, because it requires you to basically collaborate with other people. And some people want to avoid collaboration, not because they're angry or like they have already acquired the skills and they feel like other people are just in the way. And some people want to avoid them because they are introverted, or like they don't really feel comfortable dealing with people, or they feel like they're losing focus. There's many reasons why this can happen. But what you have to understand is that strategy is actually very destructive. It depends on the situation, but in some cases it's really destructive, and in most cases it's sort of destructive, because you're building a wall between yourself and everybody else. And that can, and if you're a super senior developer, sure, you might not care, but the rest of the company is actually being damaged because of the way that you do this. You create a situation where you know how all these things work, and other people really kind of don't. And as in my story, you might also be in a situation where you think that you know how to do everything well, but since you never check with anybody else, you might actually producing horrible legacy, and you're actually causing tons of problems. And all of this is due to the fact that you want to run it alone in a game that is a team-based game. Have a great day.